just original Medicare, right? That's it. If you go and apply for a Plan G, some companies, I know AARP has a 90-day window because you're not replacing coverage. If you're replacing coverage, your pre-existing gets waived immediately. But if you just randomly go out and say, you know what, I want to start going to some doctors. You know, I'm 70 years old, I've been healthy, but I want to get my body checked out, I want to do everything. Let me get insurance before I do all of this. If you go and get your Plan G, AARP has this nice little 90-day, it's at the very bottom of the application. It's not even for the agents to read when you're doing the e-app. It's in the actual underwriting guidelines. And the explanation of benefits is where it's at. But it says in there, if you are not replacing coverage, the first 90 days you are not covered. Now, what that goes along to that I have seen before is, if you're doing the application and you don't put in there that they're replacing coverage, even if they are, so if you have a Plan G with Aetna and you're rewriting them to AARP for a lower premium, if you don't put in the application that they are replacing coverage, they're not covered the first 90 days.
Well, now wait a minute, because Medicare, that only applies to people that are not, because Medicare is coverage. That's creditable coverage itself. So if somebody's open enrollment, they didn't have any insurance at all prior, zero, and they went to the doctor and they said, okay, you know, you've got this condition, AARP's not going to cover that for 90 days. Cigna's 6 months. Or if they have a co-op plan that's not considered creditable coverage, that pre-existing condition clause is there, and sometimes it's hidden. Transamerica had 6 months, and I called Transamerica once. They said, well, yeah, not even Medicare. We don't consider that creditable. I'm like, wait a second. You know, so I mean, that scared a lot of people, that some people actually read their policies. They would see that and freak out. You know, what is this? I'm not going to be covered for 6 months? You know, so Cigna's good with it. I mean, it's a very rare situation where people don't have any insurance at all. And then they're OE, they start coverage and they had something going on. But that's really the only time that applies.
It's not very prevalent.
Correct.
It's maybe like the one-offs.
But some people will freak out, they'll read that and they just misconstrue it, and you get that phone call.
I remember in one application, I forgot what it was. I think it was in New Jersey or somewhere. But this lady, like, through fine-tooth comb, went through the application, and in there's that statement that to where if the company ever goes under, it is then taken over by the state of New Jersey, and the state of New Jersey has to pay. And it said in there, it's like not a final expense, but it was like a life insurance of like $50,000 was your benefit. And she was like, oh, I didn't even know you got me a $50,000 life insurance policy too. And I'm like, I didn't. That's if your company goes under. That's just saying they're going to pay up to $50,000 in the meantime while you're switching companies. That's your allotment.
Is that a GI situation?
Yeah, a GI. So you have your, 63 days?
Yeah, okay.
You have your 63 days to go into another plan. But in that 63-day window, if it ends September 1st and you apply for coverage for November 1st, you know, then the state of New Jersey you have an allotment of money that you can use for your health concerns,
so
for your health coverage.
You're in the middle of a surgery or something.
Correct. So if you have your bypass scheduled, you know, whatever, if you have a stent placement scheduled, you can still have that happen. It's just going to be on the state's dime, not the company's dime, because they're insolvent. So there's a lot of little things kind of like that. But I think it's going back to, it's going to get pretty scary here pretty soon. And if you're not up to date on regulations and litigations that are in those applications, if you're not reading it with a fine-tooth comb, if you're not double and triple checking, you better have your E&O ready. And you better have it bumped up, because something, it's not how often, but something is going to happen, because everybody makes mistakes.
Oh, and you have to make sure the clients understand everything. I know, I got called on the carpet by Mutual of Omaha because a lady didn't cancel her policy. And I'd saved her like $50 a month going over to Mutual. Well, she called Mutual, oh, I got scammed into this policy. I never did this policy, even though she did a voice signature, it was all recorded. But they came after me saying, you know, I scammed this. And I called the client and I explained to her what happened. I mean, she was a little bit losing it. Well, fortunately, I got her on the phone with Mutual. She explained that, okay, I canceled the wrong policy. I should have canceled Aetna, blah, blah, blah. It took me about a month to get it all sorted out with a lot of back and forth to their lawyers. But here's a case that it just reiterates how important it is to follow up with your clients. You get the deal, you're not done. You're done when the thing gets paid for and they understand everything and they cancel their old policy, and you know, you have to make sure that things get followed through. People still don't cancel their policies like they should. Even, you told me you were going to cancel. No, I didn't, you know.
Right.
I mean, and it just, sometimes we just have to reiterate things a few times, but things will come up like that, you know, and you just have to make sure you've got the records and everything's in order. You know, we have to take our time and do it right. That's the bottom line.
That's really
Follow up.
Oh yeah.
That's really what this whole underwriting thing is, that we've actually just slow down. Slow down. Make sure you know what you're doing. Make sure you're doing it right. A simple letter change from an application, you know, if you have to change a middle initial, something like that, that's super easy. That's a 2-minute phone call. That's easy peasy. Not putting on there that they're replacing coverage and that person go to the doctor and get a bill. That's not as easy. So that's our tip of the day here as we wrap everything up. That was actually a quick hour. Take it slow. Take your time.